Hello, welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie and today I have a fun little video for you. I wanted to share with you my love for fingerless mitts. I have a few patterns written down that I have knit. So this is not one of the compilation videos where people share some of their to-be knits or things that they find interesting that they might want to knit but might never get to knit. This is not a video like that. This is one that I'm going to share with you projects that I have made from specific patterns. I will talk a little bit about modifying a full mitten pattern into a fingerless mitt pattern. Yeah, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about why I love fingerless mitts and some ideas maybe to get you started if it is something that you might be interested in making. As always on my videos, there is closed captioning provided. You can click on that CC button, and if I speak faster or slower than your preferences, YouTube allows you to adjust the speed. Links to things that I talk about will be in the description box below this video, and if the patterns are on Ravelry and on a designer's website, then I usually put the designer's website linked below. Okay, let's get started. The first pattern I want to talk about is the Everything November Mitts by Jen Yard. This pattern goes for $4.99 US dollars, and it comes in one size. It is a fingering weight pattern. Recommended needles are US 1 or 2.25 millimeters for a gauge of 8 stitches per inch. And if your gauge is tighter or looser, then adjust your needle size accordingly. The pattern gives you this ribbing that is done throughout, and you start at the wrist or cuff area, and then once you knit a certain amount for that, which is customizable, you can knit it as short or as long as you want to, there are these gusset increases to create for a comfortable space for your thumb or this meaty part of your palm that would need more fabric to cover it. And then once you get to this top portion of the gusset, you put those stitches on hold, continue knitting the hand portion for as long as you would like, and then go back and pick up the thumb stitches and then knit it per pattern. I have knit this pattern so many times, and in the beginning I also modified it to make some for my children, so I just did less stitch counts. I just went with I think 8 stitches less than what the pattern called for, which would shrink it down by 1 inch. And then I just stopped the gusset a little bit earlier and then knit the thumb a little bit shorter. So I feel like it's pretty easy to change to other sizes if that's something you are looking for. Just keep within the ribbing pattern so you have the right pattern repeat going on for where to do the gusset and things like that. If you're adjusting the stitch count, just do it by a multiple of what the pattern repeat is, and it's pretty easy to change it from there. I only have one of my kids' fingerless mitts here because, well, this one doesn't have the second one because it was lost at school, I think last year. These are a pair of Christmas fingerless mitts that I knit for our youngest. I used yarn from Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad, and it's a beautiful variegated yarn in a light pink with darker red and green. And then the mini, I believe it was the mini that came with this yarn, was this dark green. I can't remember if I made these last year or maybe 2 years ago, but I might have enough of the yarn remaining to knit another one, and it won't be the first time I've done this. She has another pair that she's wearing today that is knit from self-striping yarn, Knit Picks Felici, and I knit a pair. She lost one at school, so I was actually able to knit another pair exactly the same with the same striping sequence and everything, and that was great. And so far, that one has not been lost yet. So maybe the best option is to always knit 3 in case one gets lost, and then that way you don't have to hope you have the yarn still. I think I do. I'll have to look and then knit another one because they still fit. What I love about fingerless mitts is that they get a longer wearing period, especially for children because they keep growing. Sometimes if you knit a full-length mitten, by the next winter season they can't wear it anymore because it's too small. However, with fingerless mitts, they are relatively stretchy width-wise, and then for the length, their fingers can keep growing. There might not be as much coverage, but it is still wearable. And so my older daughter, I had knit her a pair of fingerless mitts maybe 4 years ago. I can't remember. When did this pattern come out? December 2020. So it could have been 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. I had made those for her. She didn't lose either of them, I don't think, and she can still wear them. So they may not cover a set of knuckles here, but they're still very wearable and still very comfortable. So that is really nice. So like I mentioned, this particular pattern uses a fingering weight yarn, and that is what I'm wearing here. And the yarn that I've used on the pair that I'm showing you right now is Purl Soho's Quartz Base, which is a merino and Surrey alpaca yarn. And I really like it. It's so fuzzy and warm and soft. And I decided to knit mine with stripes, but not all the same. So what I did, and here's my little tip. I took a snack container, and instead of having to carry larger amounts of yarn with me, some yarns had been used in previous projects and some hadn't been. So instead of carrying this giant thing of yarn in a giant bag for, I don't remember how many colors I have on here, 9 maybe, I wound off somewhere between like 3 and 8 grams of each color, and I put them in a little snack container here. And this snack container fit perfectly on the inside of a project bag. Hopefully I'll show some pictures here on the screen so you can see that, maybe not necessarily in action, but in still action. So I was able to keep them all in this container without them rolling around and getting tangled up in a bag. And that also just made it so much easier to take out with me. I could put a pair of foldable scissors inside. I could put a darning needle inside or yarn needle to weave in my ends. And it just kept everything nice and tidy. I could just take out the one color I was going to use at the time, and that can roll around in the project bag on top of the container or whatever. But it just made it so much easier, and less time untangling things means more time knitting. So as long as my little bits of scraps weighed about 40 grams or maybe slightly over, I knew I wouldn't run out of yarn. And then because I wasn't making them exactly the same, I could just start and stop whenever I wanted to, and they turned out so nice. I like to knit mine on 9-inch circulars. My preferred needles are the red lace ChiaoGoo needles. And then for the thumb, I did Magic Loop on, I think, 32-inch. Again, the ChiaoGoo needles. I like the cord. I find it very flexible, and it doesn't bend like in half and leave a crease or anything. And the needles have a very smooth join with the cord. And so those are just my favorite. I bound off, I believe, just in pattern. For the bind offs, I didn't do anything particularly fancy, so bound off knitwise for the knit stitches and bound off purlwise for the purl stitches. The next pattern I'm going to talk about is also by Jen Yard of Everything Shapes Us. This one is called the November Mitts Marled, and these are the same as these Everything November mitts. However, it is holding 2 strands of fingering weight double or just a strand of DK weight single. This one does come in multiple sizes. There are 6 sizes. It is for DK weight, and it's $4.99 US dollars. The gauge for this is 6 stitches per inch. And here I have a pair that is a gift. And I love how they turned out. For gifts, unless I know the person really well, like I know their favorite color and I know what they like to wear, I generally go a little more neutral. So these are neutral, but with like a little pop of color. There's this like pastel rainbow variegation that kind of goes throughout, and that's really fun. The colors I held together, this yarn, I don't believe this independent dyer is dyeing anymore, but it's a gray yarn with these pastel rainbows throughout, and I believe it's called Concrete Rainbow. I'll put the information on the screen. And then I held it double with Purl Soho's Fine Print yarn, which is fingering weight yarn. This colorway is called Gray Patina. It comes in 218 yards for 50 grams. So the 2 yarns are both 4-ply, the same weight, and super soft, but also durable. So I really like the dark gray with the lighter gray together. I find that if you want to hold a more variegated yarn with something more solid, it can create just this beautiful marled effect that isn't too busy. And so especially if you use something that is in the same color family, that can also be a nice way to blend them without these rainbows getting lost. That's something that I definitely wanted to have show up. I'm going to put them on so you can see. So for these, I used US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needles. Again, I knit them on 9-inch circulars and then did magic loop for the thumb sections. I cast on for the adult medium, but in some of the instances, I think I just knit to the adult small length. I just wanted to make sure they would fit comfortably without being too tight, and I didn't want them too long, otherwise it's harder to do things with. These are a gift for our school librarian, and they're always doing things with their hands, obviously putting books away, things like that, and typing or checking books in, so I wanted to make sure that they could wear them, but still be able to go on with the things that they needed to do. And so I have another one to make for the other school librarian as well. But yes, I love how they turned out. I think they're really fun and neutral, but with like a little something to them. So again, I had mentioned that these are great gift knit items, and I will definitely be making a lot more of them. These DK weight ones definitely go faster than the fingering weight ones, and if you have any amounts of yarn remaining from sock projects or other things, this is a great way to use that yarn. I ended up, I think I knit these, I don't have the information here, but I think I knit these a little bit over 50 grams, maybe closer to 55 grams, and so definitely something that can be made using yarns remaining from other projects. Next, we are moving on to color work fingerless mitts. I don't know if this is the only set of stranded color work fingerless mitts I've made. It may be, but I wanted to share them with you. I made these in 2021, so there is some pilling on them, but they are still beautiful. This pattern is Oak Hollow by Diana Walla, and it comes in 2 sizes. It is a sport weight pattern, and if I were to do it over again, I would pick a different yarn. The yarn I used is alpaca merino silk, and though it is very soft and drapey, for a pair of fingerless mitts, I think I would have chosen something that's a little woollier and will grab on to the stitches, will grab onto each other. And it is knit at a pretty dense gauge, so even though it is sport weight, I believe the needles are a US 1.5 and US 2 maybe? I can't remember exactly. Again, I'll put that on the screen if I'm incorrect. That is what I would have done differently, is use a different yarn. They are still super comfortable, and they were a really fun knit. I would say they were a little more complicated because of how the color work is set up. I'm going to flip it inside out so you can see what the inside looks like. I guess I didn't weave in any of my ends. I must have just been done when I finished, but this is what the inside looks like. Things are not too gapey or loose or wonky. It seems to be just fine. I just have a bunch of ends all over the place, which is, oh well, it's fine with me. But yeah, so color work mitts are definitely fun. There are a lot of more Scandinavian traditional color work mitt patterns out there. I think I do have a couple of those patterns as well that I might try at some point. And I don't remember if those ones are mitts or full-on mittens, but I will talk next about changing regular mitten patterns into fingerless mitts. But yeah, I really like how these turned out. I think they're lovely, and the stranded color work gives it an extra layer, which is always nice for warmth. And I think if you wanted to give color work mitts a try, for me, my favorite method is using the small 9-inch circulars, just because I don't have any edges or joins to worry about catching floats around, or just be able to keep track of where the beginning of round is sometimes easier. And I feel like with double pointed needles or magic loop, it can just be trickier for me to knit that color work chart in the round when there's like a end point, like somewhere that I have to really pause in the middle when I'm trying to count out where I am in the stitch pattern for the color work. But to each their own, that's just my preferred method. I am pretty sure I knit these on small circulars. Now that I mention it, I don't even remember, but I'm pretty sure I did. And then for the thumb portion, it looks like it's just a teeny little ribbed cuff. And then this gusset portion I must have knit on the small circulars. But I do love how the color work pops here. I think it is very fun, and color work mitts can just be a great canvas to play around with color work versus like the whole section of a sweater, either on the top or the bottom or just anywhere, because that's so many more stitches. But on a pair of fingerless mitts, it's much smaller circumference, and if you do one and you don't like it at all, you don't even have to do the second one. So yes, I really enjoyed knitting these, and I think they were a fun way to incorporate color work into something that I can wear every day. The next pattern I wanted to share with you is the free pattern by Tin Can Knits called The World's Simplest Mittens. There have been tons of projects on Ravelry for this particular mitten pattern, and I think one of the reasons is, well, it really is pretty simple. I feel like it is a very nice beginner-friendly pattern, and it comes in multiple yarn weights, multiple gauges, so you have all the stitch counts that you need there. I have made many mittens from this pattern and fingerless mitts. Now for fingerless mitts, what I do is I basically just end the hand earlier than where the decreases would start for the top. And then for the thumb, I also just end that earlier and knit in some ribbing. And that's really it. And if you want something that can be folded down on the cuff, so cover up more of the hand without it covering all of the hand, you can knit a ribbing part longer there and just fold it back. That way, if your fingers are really cold, you can cover it up. And then if you need the use of your fingers, you can fold that ribbed cuff down. Hopefully I'll have a picture of those here on the screen. I gifted those a couple of years back, and so I don't have them to share with you. One that I have knit recently are a pair of Christmas mitts for our daughter. I made the adult size for those, and I believe that used a US 5 for the ribbing and a US 7 for the main fabric. And I used Pearl Soho's Daily Wool for that. It is 100% superwash wool, and it is very round and very soft. And I figured with hands that end up going through a lot of friction that I needed something that was durable. So time will tell how those hold up, but even though they are called Christmas mitts, she has been wearing them already because she did see me making them, and I asked her if she would like them earlier than later being by Christmas. But she said if she got them earlier, then she could wear them longer, and I'm totally okay with that. Hopefully I will have had pictures here on the screen of those mitts from the yarn cake form to me knitting them and then to her wearing them. I have made a lot of those for Christmas gifts, and one of them I do have here. These are ones that I made my husband a while ago. This is using a Knit Picks yarn. I don't remember if it's DK or worsted or if they even still have it. It is like the Felici yarn, but in a heavier weight. If I have the information, I'll have it here on the screen for you to see. But these follow the World's Simplest Mitten pattern, and I just ended the hand early, did a little bit of ribbing on there for the thumb. When I picked up and finished that off, I decided, I guess, not to do any ribbing and just bind off when I felt like it was done. I will put these on for you, but of course they will be way too big on me, but it gives you a little bit of an idea. Here you go. It is a very fun way to use self-striping yarn. I find that with the use of smartphones now, you really need your fingers probably a lot more often than we used to have our fingers out. And so just to be able to move things on the screen or be able to take pictures or things like that, you need access to your fingers, and these fingerless mitts are just a practical way to be able to keep your hands mostly warm but also have use of your fingers. Another reason, aside from phones, is if you have little kids around you and you need to be zipping up zippers and tying shoes, again, you need your fingers, and I don't know about you, but I am not very good at zipping up zippers and tying shoes if I have full-on mittens on my hands, and if I take them off to be able to do all those things while we're outside in the snow, my hands get pretty cold. And so having those fingerless mitts on, it really helps me be able to do those things, and then if I'm not doing those things, I can put my hands in my pockets and they still stay plenty warm that way. Okay, I think that is everything that I wanted to share with you today on the practicality of fingerless mitts. I hope that I inspired you to maybe look into this project as something maybe you want to make for yourself, make for a loved one, make for little children in your life. I just have had so much fun knitting these, and I feel like they can also be a great on-the-go project or project between bigger projects if you are maybe a sweater knitter or a blanket knitter, or you're crocheting a full-size blanket and you want something that's a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker to finish and just have on the go with you. I have loved making these, and I foresee many, many more in the future. With that, cheers to being creative. I hope you are doing well, taking good care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your neighbors, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.